Hello and welcome to the Film Pulse Podcast. This is episode number 355. My name's Adam Patterson. With me today, we've got Kevin Rickshaw. Hey, Kevin.
Hey.
This week on the show, we'll be taking a look at the upcoming horror film, The Lodge. We'll also be going over some of what we're watching on the watch list, new releases in theaters, VOD, and Blu-ray. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Please remember to review us on iTunes if you get a moment. That would be super helpful. Just two housekeeping bits, maybe three. We got a new Ryan Watches movie dropping on Thursday, so that's very exciting. He wanted a sick and twisted foreign horror movie, so we gave him an Australian horror movie he never saw before. Mm-hmm. And on Wednesday, there's going to be a new Saved by the 90s coming out. It's the first part of our February show. We're doing a new thing where we release 2 episodes per month now instead of just 1. Each month is still going to carry the same theme. So with February, we're doing dark thrillers. And the first part is going to drop on Wednesday. And we're going to talk about Clive Barker's Nightbreed. And we're going to talk about John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness.
Oh, that's a good movie.
And we're going to talk about...
a real good movie.
Oh, yeah, it's a real good movie. Yeah, buddy. And we're going to talk about the TV series Millennium. Remember that show? Millennium?
No. Nope.
It was by Chris Carter.
Millennium. Okay.
Really good show. Lance Hendrickson.
That's right.
Yeah.
You should have said the Lance Hendrickson show, and then I would have remembered.
Yeah, really good. I also have a couple videos that I'm working on that should be dropping. At least I'm gonna throw at least one of them out this week. That one of them is a supplement for Saved by the 90s, where I take a look at the Nightbreed video games. There were actually 2 video games made based on Nightbreed, and I took a look at those. Boy, are they bad. Boy, are they bad. So that should be coming out this week as well. Okay, I think we can jump into our review for this week. We're talking about The Lodge. This is directed by Severin Fiala and Veronica Franz. I have a synopsis here. A soon-to-be stepmom is snowed in with her fiancé's 2 children at a remote holiday village. Just as relations begin to thaw between the trio, some strange and frightening events take place. This is currently playing in limited release, and it'll be going wide on Friday. We have a review for this up on the site. Blake wrote a review for us. So, Kevin, we'll start with you. What did you think of The Lodge?
This one's this is a little toughy. It's a little toughy one.
Oh, yeah. By the way, before we get into it, sorry to interrupt, but we should be very careful with spoilers on this one. So
yeah, that's going to be a toughie.
Yeah, try not to divulge more than what that synopsis says. So let's just speak very generally at the beginning. And I think for this one, we probably will want to talk about spoilers. So if that's the case, we'll announce it and we'll put it at the very end of the show.
Yeah. The first thought, I thoroughly enjoyed the atmosphere of this movie. The look, like the cinematography, I thought was great. The location of the lodge, the getting snowed in and everything. I liked that. I liked all of that, the setting and everything. Again, it is a tough one because of the, not spoiling this movie. But I will say that what comes to light as to why these things are happening, I really liked that. Because I was a little worried of where this was going to go, and I thought that where it went was somewhat original, and it was welcomed. It kind of made it far more fucked up than what I thought it was originally planned to do. Yeah,
it is a very fucked up movie. I was getting some like major kind of Hereditary vibes from it. At first, I'm like, this feels a lot like an Ari Aster movie where it's got that it's kind of like that slow burn, lo-fi horror style where you have this sort of building dread that's coming up. And a friend of mine saw it this weekend and said that he felt like the air got sucked out of the whole theater and no one could breathe while they were watching it. And I think that that's sort of an apt description where you feel this sort of suffocating force while you're watching it and it just keeps building and building.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say Hereditary because I was kind of thinking the same thing, and it feels like a mixture of a lot of prior films. Like it has that Hereditary feel, obviously because of the family thing going on, but then you also have the dollhouse because a lot of horror movies have dollhouses for some reason now
Yeah.
that they always cut to. I don't know why, but I like that's the whole thing. So you had that going on, and then it also had, obviously, it kind of has this like Shining feel to it, of them being snowed in this, big ass house out in the middle of nowhere, where no one else is around. So it has a lot of these things that feel pretty familiar. So that was the thing that kind of worried me in terms of like, okay, where are they actually going to go with this? Because a lot of it is like stuff is happening, and you're not 100% sure what's exactly happening because, of course, the stepmother to be has some emotional issues, and oh boy, she can't be trusted. We don't know what's going on in terms of the reality of what's happening here.
Yeah, she had let's just say a very troubled past, and she's on medication to get that under control. But
Yeah, and she does some sleepwalking, maybe. We're not sure. It kind of cuts in and out where, there's days are spent where you're just, okay, this is the day, and then nighttime, that's where things get a little sketchy because there's dream sequences, there's sleepwalking, and you're not 100% sure what's actually happening and what's not happening. So again, there was that worry of like, okay, a lot of this is familiar. Is the reasoning, is the reveal going to be familiar too? And I was happy that it pretty much wasn't.
this is a movie that, and it's very rare. I watch, if you listen to the show, if you look at the reviews that I write and stuff, I watch a lot of horror movies throughout the year. And it's very rare that a movie will make me jump when it's like not like, a cheap jump scare where a loud noise occurs. And this movie made me jump twice, even though I knew what was going to happen. I still jumped because to me, like there's these two moments that were like just so shocking to me. I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, and both times when I jumped, I literally, like, I audibly, I don't remember what I said, but I said something like, oh my God, or like Jesus Christ or something like that, because there are a couple moments in this movie that like genuinely shocked me, like to my core. And that's very rare.
I enjoyed the creepy stuff. I mean, there are some things in this, and I'm just kind of remembering now, there are some stuff that really don't make sense. They're just really kind of dumb. The main one being the gun at the very, very beginning, where they're just like, hey, it's just a shot of a gun. And you're like, okay, obviously that's going to be something. And then,
Totally Chekhov's gun.
yeah. And then you have, Riley Keough and Richard Armitage, where like they just had a little bit of a rough morning with the ice skating. And he's just like, hey, let me show you something. And he's just like, here's a gun. And it's like, that's probably the worst. Why did you choose this moment to be like, here's a gun. This is in the house, by the way.
Yeah. Well,
it's like, why?
It was a poor decision all around. Like you said, I loved the atmosphere. I loved the camera work. Now, this is the same duo that did Goodnight Mommy. And one of the highlights of that movie for me was specifically the camera placement and how they framed shots. I really loved what they did in Goodnight Mommy. And that sort of carries over to this. There's some scenes in it that feel almost like, I don't want to say found footage because that's not accurate, but the placement of the camera, it almost feels like it's sort of like a mounted security camera or something like that, where like the camera will be sort of like up in the corner of the room or something, and you'll see like the people walking in, and it almost has that like voyeuristic look to it.
Yeah.
And I really liked that a lot.
And a good way of thinking about this is you have, the like you said, the director's behind Goodnight Mommy, and then they picked up the cinematographer that works a lot of times with Lanthimos and some of the Greek directors. So this is the guy that did the Killing of the Sacred Deer, The Lobster, Blind, The Capsule, L,
Totally see that
Attenborough.
in this.
Yeah,
All the colors are really washed out. It just looks fantastic. I was really, really into the aesthetic of this, just all around. I love the look of the cabin. I love the weird items in the cabin, like that creepy painting.
yeah.
What can you imagine? I mean, can you imagine being Riley Keough's character in this, Grace, like being put in that? Now it was her suggestion to do this whole thing. So without giving too much away, these kids, they do not like her at all as their prospective new stepmom. So to go into this situation, and I feel like she needed to ease herself into their lives a little bit more before just jumping headlong into this thing, because their dad, he was Richard Armitage, he was going to be away for like a few days, and she was going to take care of the kids. And man, I can't imagine being in that situation.
No, it was a terrible idea. Absolutely terrible. Why? Why would you do this, especially at Christmas time?
I know.
And right after their mother. Come on. Just a terrible decision.
I feel like anything else, discussing anything else would be a complete spoiler. So I think, was there anything else like non-spoiler spoiler-y that you want to add?
No, I don't think so. The only thing that pissed me off is as soon as the dog was introduced, I was like, God damn, you motherfuckers. You knew. You fucking knew.
As is customary with this podcast, anytime a dog dies, I feel a need to do a public service and announce it. So there is a dog that dies in this movie, and it's pretty rough.
Yeah, and they gotta keep doing the close up.
Mm-hmm. So we'll put a spoiler discussion at the end of the show, but let's go ahead and give this a score now. Kevin, what are you thinking about giving The Lodge out of 10?
I'm sitting right now at like a 7.
I'm right there with you. I'm at a 7, maybe even a 7.5. I saw this very late last night, so I'm still sort of processing it. Yeah. But right now I'm at like a 7.5.
Yeah, because I'm thinking it might go up. And I mean, like I said, I had some issues with it, but like the overall atmosphere and the way that it kind of built that and compounded that dread throughout, mm-hmm. I think does it, overshadow any issues that I have with it, really.
Performances too. I mean, especially Riley Keough, she had the most to work with as far as her character and the complexity of her character, and I think she did a really great job of managing that. And in one moment, she's a very sympathetic character, but at the same time, she can also manage to be very menacing at the same time. So I think that she did a really great job with that role, and the kids did a great job too. The son was played by Jaden Martell, who you probably remember from the It series, the It movies.
He's popping up and everything.
Yeah, he was in Knives Out too, and the girl was played by Leah McHugh. Okay, let's talk about some more we're watching on our watch list. For me, this is a pretty brief week because the only stuff that I watched was some 90s stuff for Saved by the 90s. So I don't have anything to add to a watch list this week, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. So it's an exclusive Kevin affair.
It's a Kevin show.
All right, here we go. You can tune out now. I watched The Blackcoat's Daughter from 2015, Oz Perkins.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I didn't know that was Anthony Perkins' son.
I didn't either, actually.
Yeah.
Huh.
When I watched this, and I'm like, Oz Perkins. I always hear this Oz Perkins dude. Who the fuck is Oz Perkins? Where'd he come from? Of course he's related to somebody. That's how it works nowadays. But Blackcoat's Daughter is pretty good. Pretty fucked up. It's a little bit thin. I shouldn't say a little bit thin. It's really, really thin in terms of like the reasoning behind things, or like what's actually going on, how this came to be. But like the actual visuals and like what happens um, is pretty fantastic. It's just it could have used a lot more in terms of narrative heft. But this all girls prep school, everyone goes home for the holidays. These two kids stuck. Their parents aren't coming. Kieran Shipka and Lucy Boynton, they're stuck there. They got to wait a couple extra days until their parents come and pick them up. And then there's two like woman like uh, keepers, whatever, that look after the school and everything, and they kind of just watch over them, but they don't do that great of a job of watching over them. And what happens is Kieran Shipka gets possessed by the devil while they're waiting, and she ends up doing what the devil tells her to do, which, as you know, is never good things. But at the same time, this is happening, and it plays out very, it's kind of a slow burn type deal. It's not that original in terms of what happens. As you know, the devil usually tells you to do one thing, but at the same time as this is happening, you have the Emma Roberts timeline happening. So it kind of cuts back between the two. And it turns out Emma Roberts is Kieran Shipka like later on in life. And she gets picked up by James Remar and his wife, like, driving her to the next town or something. So then that plays out as well. It was an interesting ending. I did enjoy the ending of like where they went with that. So it's like there's a lot of it that I enjoyed about it, but at the same time, it's just there's not a whole lot there, and it's just like a slow burn to really nothing, and especially in terms of like the devil possession type thing. It just feels like there's not a whole lot to do with in that genre, where no one's really doing anything fresh with it outside of like the devil tells you to kill people, and they do.
I saw this, but I literally remembered nothing
Yeah, I think
about it.
I I'm pretty sure that's going to be the case too in a couple of years from me.
I gave it a 2 on Letterbox, so I guess I didn't like it, but I don't remember anything about it. This was Kieran and Shipka pre Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which is actually a pretty damn good show on Netflix, by the way.
Huh. Yeah, and I mean it's brutal. It's a brutal movie. They got some brutal violence in there because the devil usually makes you kill people in messy ways. He's never a poisoning guy. He's never
Mm-hmm.
like let's poison people. He's got to make a show of it. But again, it's like that's kind of thing. Like why if you're gonna do the devil possession movies, like why is that it? Like why not try something besides the devil's gonna make me kill people?
Yeah. Oz Perkins recently directed the Gretel and Hansel movie that's in theaters right now, which I haven't
Yeah.
seen yet, but I do want to see that. And looking at his picture, man, he looks just like Anthony Perkins. If I saw this dude's
Mm-hmm.
if I saw this dude's picture, I'd be like, oh well, yeah, obviously.
Yes. Yeah, it made a lot of sense. A lot of sense when I did that Google search. And then two movies here, the Michelle Simon movies. So first is I watched Panic from 1946. This is directed by Julien Duvivier, and this movie is fantastic. This is an all timer for me. It's a timeless classic. Really good in terms of it. Pretty much looks at like mob mentality. So Simon plays this guy. He's living in this small French town. Carnival comes in town, and everyone's a bunch of gossips and everything. And at the very beginning, they find this dead woman, and they're trying to figure out, who killed this woman. It's a pretty small town, everything. Pretty early on, you know who killed her, and Simone's the guy. He kind of has information, and he kind of uses it to like blackmail people, especially the killer's girlfriend. Because and this is the fatal flaw that he makes is that he falls in love with her. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna get her to marry me because I have the info about him killing this woman. Like, that's gonna fucking work, dude. Come on. So, that this all plays out, and what they end up doing is getting the whole town kind of riled up about this guy because no one kind of really likes him to begin with because he kind of keeps to himself. He doesn't really talk to people. So everyone kind of thinks he's a little bit weird. He's a bit of an oddball. He doesn't really fit in. Doesn't associate or, socialize with anybody. So they kind of get this fever built up in the town that he's the one that killed that woman because it's got to be him because he doesn't associate with anybody in the town. He's a weirdo. He's an oddball. So they get all whipped up into a frenzy and they decide they're going to take care of this. They're going to take it into their own hands. They go into his room and kind of pack up all the shit and throw it out. And they find a piece of evidence that was planted there that makes him the killer. And then there's this huge, this kind of the grand finale of him coming back into the town and like the entire town just fucking attacking him. And he kind of runs off. And it's just, it's pretty fantastic, pretty incredible. And it's absolutely devastating because he's such a nice guy. He's just kind of misunderstood. He doesn't want to associate with people. Not anything personal. Just a nice dude. Except for when he's trying to blackmail a woman into
That's Panic.
Panic. Definitely watch that. So watching that movie, I was like, hey, I like this guy, this actor. So I'm going to watch another movie with his called Le Poison from 1951. Weird thing, though, is last movie was 1946. This movie, 1951. The same guy. He looks decades older. It's weird. It's only 5 years. But, man, I don't know what happened in those 5 years. But something. A whole lot of life happened. And he looks a bit rough in Poison. And Poison is an absolute shit show of filmmaking. Just fucking terrible. Just goddamn bland as can be. Ridiculous. Like absolutely no flavor. No flair, no nothing. Just people talking. Fucking awful. Like the actual script's pretty good. The performances are pretty great. But the other thing is like it's a pretty fucked up movie in terms of he plays a guy that's married, hates his marriage, hates his wife, wants to kill her. She also wants to kill him because they just hate each other, can't stand it anymore. So she buys some rat poison. She's going to do it. She's just got to, build up the courage to do it. And then also she kind of gets sidetracked because she gets drunk all the time. She mostly just wants to drink and be left alone. So completely understandable. And he always gives her a hard time for it. So what ends up happening is he hears a radio interview with this guy that's acquitted all these murderers. And he's like, I'm the best. I can quit anybody. I'm the best lawyer in goddamn town. So he's like, okay. So he goes to the lawyer's office and he's like, yeah, I killed my wife. He hasn't done it yet, but the lawyer doesn't know. So the lawyer kind of like walks him through like what he should do. So he ends up using that like as his blueprint and kind of trapping this lawyer into taking on his case because then he goes home and kills his wife. But the messed up thing about this movie is that he kills his wife and everyone's like, oh, this is kind of good though for our small town. We'll start getting tourists, travelers coming in, which they do, and they're really happy about it. And then the trial, this ridiculous courtroom trial, is just him saying whatever he wants to say. And mostly what it is him and the rest of the town just discussing how ugly his wife was and that no one in their right mind would or could ever have sex with her. Like everyone. Just like she's fun. And he even like pulls out a picture and he's like, here, I brought proof. Here's a picture of her from a year ago. And like hands around everybody and everyone's kind of like, whoa, see what he's saying. And it's just like, what the fuck is going on here? This is so ridiculous. And then he ends up getting acquitted for, I don't know how, I don't know why. They really don't show you or explain how he gets off. But he gets acquitted, comes back to town, and everyone's super happy. Everyone's like, oh, God, yes, he's back. We love it. Everything worked out for the best. And it's just like, this poor fucking woman. What the fuck?
It doesn't sound great.
No, it's awful. I mean, Really, the performances between Michelle Simone and Jean Debecourt, who plays the lawyer, they have some like back and forth when they sit down and they kind of do their little semantics timing thing. They make it watchable. Everything else is just fucking terrible, and that's all I got. That's it.
Oh, all right. And that is Poison from 1951.
Yeah. Both of those two movies were Criterion Channel, by the way.
All right. So if you have Criterion Channel, you can check them out on there. All right, let's take a look at what we have in theaters this week. We got Downhill coming out. This is the Force Majeure remake.
Advised.
Now, normally, I'd be like, no. I don't want anything to do with this. Because I loved Force Majeure. I thought it was incredible. And I don't think it's necessary to have a remake of this. But, it's got Will Ferrell and it's got Julia Louis-Dreyfus in it. So that's pretty good. The directors, you got Nat Faction in there and Jim Rash. So you got a talented bunch behind this one, which has me slightly into it.
We'll see.
It's a hard no for you.
No, I didn't even like Force Majeure.
Really? I thought you did.
Yeah. No. Well, let me double check. Because watch, that's probably one of those things where I'm like, I did not like that movie. And then you look it up and it's 4 stars.
I thought you did. I know we did review it on the site, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
On
3
the
stars.
show. 3 stars?
I gave it 3 stars.
Okay, so
It
seems to me like a 3 stars like.
It's a light, very light like.
For me it's like 3, 3.5 is I liked it. 4 3, 3.5, I liked it. 4, I liked it a lot. 4.5, 5, loved it.
Well, a 3 for me could be I don't really like it, but in terms of filmmaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Hey, who knows? I don't know. I don't fucking remember that movie. I remember a guy ugly crying.
I liked the ugly crying.
Yeah, I hope they do that in the movie. You have to.
I'm wondering if it's gonna have the sort of. I think it will have like sort of the serious undertones that the original one had.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because it's a comedy, but at the same time, it gets pretty serious.
Yeah, but I imagine with those people involved, it's going to lean more comedic. Because if you keep the serious route, it's kind of like why do it? It's just going to be the same thing again.
Right.
But who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. We got Fantasy Island coming out. This is the Blumhouse horror version of the TV show.
Yeah, I didn't know this was a thing, really.
I'm slightly into this. I don't know if I'll go see it or not, but we got The Photograph coming out. What is The Photograph? I forget what that is.
That's the Keith.
Oh yeah. That's right. We got Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh yeah, that's the biggie.
Finally coming out. I gotta say, there was
For whatever reason.
Maybe it was the latest trailer, but there was like 1 or 2 little jokes in there that made me chuckle a little bit. I'm not gonna go see it, but I will say that the fact that they redesigned Sonic and I will give them credit. It looks much better now. Like,
he actually looks like Sonic.
Yeah, like the whole movie. I mean, redoing the Sonic look makes the whole movie look better to me.
Well, yeah. I mean, it didn't make sense in the beginning to be like, this is our Sonic. And it's like, well, it looks nothing like him. So why?
Yeah. Like I might actually, I'm not going to go see it in the theater, to be very clear, but I will probably see it before the end of the year. Like whenever it hits VOD, I'll watch it. What About Love also comes out. It's another one that I kind of forget what I don't know what that is either. I don't even know if I ever heard of that.
I haven't.
2 young people somewhat wary of love spend a summer night together in Europe making a film about people's attitude towards love.
No, thank you.
Yeah. I don't know. In limited release, we have After Midnight. This is the Jeremy Gardner.
Mm-hmm.
This one I'd recommend. This is sort of a lo-fi, slow burn horror movie. Quite good. Not exactly what I expected. It's a little bit of a genre bender, this one.
Ooh.
incorporates a lot of things. There's a lot of comedy. It's sort of a romance story too. It's about a crumbling relationship, but it also includes some creature elements as well.
Oh.
This is actually produced by Benson and Moorhead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, definitely worth a look. Also in limited release, we have Brown Paper Bag, Buffaloed. Buffaloed's a comedy with Zoe Deutsch. Looks all right. Camp Coldbrook, Come As You Are, Enter the Fat Dragon, First Lady, I Wish I Knew, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, getting a limited release. I don't understand that release schedule for that movie. I thought that came out last year, but
yeah,
apparently not. VFW is getting a limited release. That's pretty much it for theaters. Let's take a look at Blu-ray. On the 11th, we have Transcending Gender. I believe that is a documentary? I think it is a documentary. No, it's called In Full Bloom, Transcending Gender. That's the full title. We got Alien Outbreak. The deadliest plague has come from above.
Ooh.
There you go. Alien Invasion. We got Cupid, horror movie about a really funny looking Cupid thing that probably kills people.
Okay.
On the 12th, we have To All the Boys, P.S. I Still Love You. It's on Netflix. That's the sequel.
Yeah.
On the 14th, we have A Simple Wedding. We got Olympic Dreams. That's the rom-com with Nick Kroll and Alexei Pappas, which is a really weird matchup. And I believe the film was co-written by Nick Kroll and Alexei Pappas, and it was shot during the Olympics at the Olympic Village.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It seems like kind of a cool idea. We also have Sadistic Intentions. This looks like maybe some kind of horror comedy or something. We got The Staggering Girl on Mubi. That's on the 15th. The Staggering Girl is the new one from the dude that did Call Me by Your Name.
Yeah, the Luca guy.
Yeah.
Luca, right?
Yeah. Are you interested in this?
The reason I came. Sure.
I mean, it's going to be on Mubi, so if you subscribe to Mubi, it'll be on there.
Yeah, that's going to be one of those that when I get around to it, it'll be gone.
Oh yeah. I'm sure it's like a limited time thing, as is customary for that service. VFW is also coming out. I forgot to mention that, and that'll be on the 14th as well. And VFW is the new one from Joe Bagos.
Oh, okay.
Which is weird. Like, I knew that was coming out soon, but I actually had to, like, I didn't get any kind of, like, correspondence about that at all. So I was totally unaware that it was coming out this Friday. And I had to, like, look it up to confirm. But I'm very interested in VFW. You got The Wild Bunch meets Night of the Living Dead. The film follows Fred and his military buddies as they must defend their local VFW and an innocent teen against a deranged drug dealer and his relentless army of punk mutants.
Yeah.
I'm
Got George Wendt in there again?
Yep, George Wendt.
And Fred Williamson.
Yep.
Oh. What?
Stephen Lang, William Sadler in there too. Martin Cove. I'm all about this. I'm liking what Bagos is throwing at me these days. That's pretty much it for VOD. Let's see what we got going on Blu-ray. This is for Tuesday, February 11th. We got My Bloody Valentine from 1981. This is a remastered collector's edition. I'm quite interested in this version. Shutter Island is getting a 4K release. Ford v Ferrari is coming out. Can you believe that got nominated for all those Oscars?
It just makes me laugh. Anytime I hear that title, so ridiculous.
We got First Love. This is the Takeshi Miike one that I was pretty big fan of this one. Pretty big fan. Got Hudson Hawk is coming out on one of those like weird VHS looking things where they make the Blu-ray case look like a VHS case. I don't know about that collection. Got The Devil from 1981. That looks like a Vinegar Syndrome. When a Stranger Calls from 1979. That's also getting one of those VHS things. RoboCop from 1987 is coming out. That's the Arrow version, but I believe that is like sort of the regular Blu-ray and not the box set that came out earlier. Greener Grass is coming out. I would highly recommend that if you haven't seen it yet. In Fabric, that's the Peter Strickland one. I don't know. I don't think I talked about that on the show. I thought it was okay, but I was a little bit disappointed in how it was structured. It's got this really strange structure to it where, like, when you see the trailer, it looks like there's like a main protagonist, right? But it completely changes halfway through the movie, and there's a perspective shift, and it's almost like it's two short films that are just stuck together. And I had a really big problem with that. It's a really big letdown, but overall the movie, I mean, obviously it's just with Peter Strickland, like stylistically, it's pretty incredible. There's a Rambo collection that's coming out that has all of the Rambo movies. If you're into Rambo, I'd say that one's probably safe to get because I really doubt that there's going to be another one.
Yeah.
There's a John Wick collection coming out as well that has chapters 1 through 3. That one I would hold off on because I can almost guarantee there's going to be another John Wick coming out. You got The Wave. That just came out a couple weeks ago. And that's pretty much it. What about Criterion's this week?
Oh, we got Roma.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, the Netflix movie jumping out there on the Criterion. You're going to get, looks like 3, 4 maybe, new documentaries, 5, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of new documentaries on here, making of the film. And then behind the scene footage. And then there's a documentary with like the cast and the producers and stuff. And then there's a documentary about the film sound and post-production processes. And then a documentary about the theatrical campaign. So it seems like there's a documentary for every facet of this movie.
That's what I like to hear. If you want to win a copy of Roma, we're giving away a copy as our February giveaway. So there'll be a link in the description of in the show notes for this episode, and you can go to our site, filmpulse.net, and sign up to win a copy. We don't use your email for anything but the contest, so I'm not going to be using it for marketing purposes or any of that bullshit.
You're not going to blast them? Email blast?
No email blast. We do have a newsletter, though. You can sign up for a newsletter, which is once a month.
Blast them with the MailChimp? Is that what it is?
We do use MailChimp for our newsletter, yeah.
Is that what that is?
It's a great service. It's a great service. All right. I think that's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. You can send us your questions and topics to podcast@filmpulse.net. You can follow us on Twitter @FilmPulseNet and @FilmPulseKevin. And if you have a minute, consider giving us a review on your podcast platform of choice. For Kevin Rakestraw, my name is Adam Patterson. We'll see you next week. Okay, let's talk about some spoilers.
Let's get the spoilers going.
Let's talk about these spoilers. Did you? I mean, I didn't see. I really didn't know where this was going. If there was like because I went into it completely cold. Like I had no idea what. I knew the basic premise. I knew that it was about a family stuck in a cabin. But I didn't know if there was like a supernatural element or not.
Yeah, and they play that up, and that was the thing that I was worried about, because the way that they're playing it at the beginning, it seems like the mother, like the spirit of the mother,
right? Yeah,
is doing all these things, and you're like, are they gonna try and be like the spirit of the mother's like in this doll? Like, I really hope that's not what they do here, because that's fucking weird.
I was also kind of
hoping, good way.
Yeah, I was also kind of hoping that it wasn't going to be your standard haunted house movie. Now, if you've seen Goodnight Mommy, you'll know that that's sort of the same, where you're not quite sure what's going on here, if there is a supernatural element involved or not. And at the beginning of the movie when so you have Alicia Silverstone in there as the mom, and she kills herself at the beginning of the movie. And to me, that whole scene was so shocking. I was just blown away by that scene. I was like, what the
Yeah,
hell?
and that was a little bit rough because I didn't know that she was in this movie. So when she shows up at the beginning, I'm like, oh, Alicia Silverstone's in this too. Oh, cool. I'm like, wait, how's that work with Riley? I thought it was Riley Keough though. And then, you know, they answered that for me.
That was the first scene that when I mentioned it that made me give me a jump scare.
Yeah, it kind of came out of nowhere. I was
Because
not
I was
expecting that.
I was so shocked by it. The other scene was when Grace shot the dad. Like I knew that
Yeah,
was going to happen. Like you by that
yeah.
point, like you're pretty sure it's going to happen. But I still jumped. I still jumped because it was just so
And I also love the way in which they set that up is how they do a hard cut to him back at the house, like back in the city. Like right at the point where she's kind of lost it completely and you know something terrible is going to happen. So they hard cut to him like wrapping things up and coming back and you're like, okay, he's going to come back and then, something's going to happen. And, he gets back for what, a minute and then shot in the face.
yeah.
She's like, oh, okay. He's not helping.
So
Should
to
have known.
to break it down, basically what happens is the two kids, they hate this woman because they blame her for the death of her mother, of their mother, and they decide to pull what may be the most diabolical, horrible prank on her and try to convince her that they're all dead and that they all died.
Yeah.
And they end up taking all of the objects out of the house. They take or they hide all the food, their coats, their things, including her medicine. And they hide it all in the basement. And they then try to, and also, how did they make those flyers?
I don't know. It's like,
They
yeah, that's
they
what I mean.
snuck off
There's some stuff that like doesn't work,
they snuck off
but
to
like the
Kinko's or
over,
something.
it's like the overall thing. I was like, okay,
I mean,
but he might have had them made up beforehand
I
because
was just
he
gonna
was the one that
say,
was like, do you want me to get the gas heater?
yeah, I guess it's possible that he made them up before, but they looked very professional. Like
Yeah,
he must
it was.
he must
Yeah,
have hired
no,
somebody on like Design Crowd to do it.
these kids knew what they were doing. I mean, they did a pretty fantastic job. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But I was so happy because there was a point where I'm like, like once it got closer towards the end, I was like, I really hope I hope they go all in it. These kids are fucked up and they're awful. Because, you're kind of thinking, good night, mommy. And you're like, I'm pretty sure these two directors hate kids. So
Yeah,
I hope they do it again. And they
and they
did it
did it.
again. And I was very happy.
They did it. These kids are pretty fucked up. So they successfully, I mean, due to the fact that she didn't have her medication, and to talk about the character of Grace a little bit, she was raised in this crazy religious cult that they committed a mass suicide, and she was the only survivor. This was
Yeah.
when she was like 12. So that's why she's all messed up in the head and requires what I would
Elaborate, perfect storm.
yeah. And see that's why it's so diabolical, because the kids knew that. They did the research on her and they figured out that was like her traumatic past, and they exploited
Yeah.
that to make her go crazy.
And I
And
mean, they lifted audio from like her father's sermons and had that piping throughout the house. Like, these kids are fucking awful.
yeah. Which actually, now that I think about it, leads me to believe that there's no way that they planned this before. I mean, sorry. There's no way they planned this after they got to the lodge. So they probably did make up the flyers beforehand and bring them.
They did so much work
Yeah. There's just no
beforehand.
way that they planned that in such a short amount of time. because it was very elaborate. And the fact that they like took her what I would assume is like some sort of antipsychotic medication, and then they killed the dog too. Like that seemed like it was an accident, but at the same time, I'm like, who leaves the front door open when you're at a place like that?
Not only when you're at a place like that, but it appeared as though they got like about a foot of snow.
Mm-hmm.
So come on, come the fuck on.
So I question if that was even an accident, but
goddamn kids.
so, so it's pretty twisted, but
and it's great. It's also great though that it backfires on them. Like they took it just a bit. They were successful. You know, bravo for you guys, pat you on the back. But you were too successful, and now you're all fucking dead.
Mm-hmm.
So congrats.
Yeah. So she completely cracks. Her reality is just completely broken, and she thinks, oh yeah. Also, one other thing that they do to just really hammer it home is the son Aiden pretends to hang himself and prove that they're actually dead.
Mm-hmm.
I was starting to think that at first too. I'm like, okay, well maybe they are dead. I thought it was weird that like he immediately went to the fact, oh, we're dead. But then I was starting to think like, okay, maybe they are dead. Like maybe that is what's going on here.
Yeah.
But no, he pulled a fast one on her, and she completely lost it.
And that's where it backfires, because these two kids they're Christian kids, and they were worried about their mother not making it to heaven because she committed suicide, and that's where that's their fatal flaw here. They're like, oh, you know, we have to repent our sins because we're stuck in purgatory. Well, you don't do that to a woman that was raised in a ridiculous cult, because she is going to outdo you in that little, you know, escapade. She's going to be deadly serious about, and you guys are just like, oh, we just got to pray a little bit. Yeah, you don't pray like she does.
Right. She prays with like burning hot logs on her knees.
Yeah.
And you know, like when that switch just gets flipped in her, because she's reluctant at first. She's like, no, that's not it. But she's already starting to lose it by that point. Like by the time they say we're dead, she's already starting to crack. And eventually, man,
but she's also like, no, that doesn't make sense. And then he does the hanging thing, which it looks like he's hung. So she's like, oh shit, okay, I got to get right with God. So, you know, we're going to have to do some serious work. We got to make up a lot of time here, you know. Got to do a lot of penance. And they weren't ready for it. And they, you know, they take everything, all the possessions, but they don't take the gun, which is also really fucking dumb. You dumb kids. You're really smart, but you're also really fucking dumb.
At first, I was like, oh, well, maybe they didn't know about the gun. But then there was that one scene when she was like sleepwalking and she kind of woke up and she was holding the gun. So they had to know about the gun.
Yeah. But even when they're sitting there at the very end, it's like, she's not, just grab the gun. What are you doing?
Also, just going back to what you were saying in the non-spoiler section, this guy, what an idiot. I mean, even if you thought that she was stable and, you know, had control of her life, like, take the gun out of the equation, you know? Jeez.
Yeah. He's fucking dumb. And he's also just really, he's really stupid in a lot of ways. Because even, you know, they had no phones, but the kids could talk to him. And you wouldn't think it's weird, like, wow, I can't talk to the woman that I'm going to marry in like a month or so. I haven't talked to her at all. Even when you're talking to your kids, be like, hey, can you put Grace on the phone?
Right.
No. Like, come on. Fucking, he got shot in the face, though.
He did. What did you think about, so the movie ends with her having the kids at the table and there's like soup in front of them and she puts duct tape over their mouths that says sin on it, and she has the dead dad sitting at the table too. And then the movie just ends there. How did you think about that that
I
ending.
enjoyed it because it's weird. It's a weird ending that I love in terms of, the kids turn out to be the bad guys, and Grace is also kind of not really a hero, but she ends up winning in the end in a really perverse way,
Hmm.
considering what her reality is. And
Yeah.
those fucking kids, you, you tried to play, you tried to play the crazy Christian card, and you weren't prepared. They learned a valuable life lesson, as a kid.
They did, although I don't. They did, although I don't know if they're going to be able to take that lesson very far in their lives.
No,
Something
no,
tells me they're not going to last too much longer beyond that scene where it ends.
yeah, but yeah, they they learned a valuable lesson before their death. You don't fuck with that, you know, that radical religious. You can't do it. You can't play with that. You can't play with that type of fire, kids.
Yeah,
It'll get you.
definitely not. With sometimes with movies that end like mid scene like that, it doesn't necessarily work. But I think that it worked pretty well in this case. I think that it was a pretty effective way to end the movie because you're just like, whoa, you know. I enjoyed that. So yeah, that's The Lodge. Go check it out.